One. And we're live.
Hey, what's up?
Hey!
We did it. We're live. How's everybody doing? Rhetorical question.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to another episode of Morning Ritual. I am one of your hosts, Noir. I go by He/They, as you can see right above me.
Hi, I'm your other host, Anita. My pronouns are she, they. And we've got an amazing guest today. Makenzie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, I'm Makenzie the Armas, Makenzie Lane DA on Twitter and in chat. My pronouns are she, her. I am an associate game designer for Dungeons and Dragons at Wizards of the Coast.
Boom! That's the dopest intro. I've got so many questions.
And that was our intros done in like less than 30 seconds.
Take that, bingo players. They haven't brought up that bingo thing in like maybe a season and a half, but it so offended us to our core that we try and nail all the bingo stuff just so they can't say anything. But I don't know where to go from here.
I have no idea. Like,
we've done this like 60 plus times and like we still don't have this down.
We still don't know. Like,
I'm just here for the ride. I don't care where we go. I'm just here.
You're about to want to put on your seatbelt for real. Oh, hey, Overlord. Welcome to the show. So, all right, I'm gonna act like I'm a professional, and we're just gonna get down to the nitty gritty. So, Makenzie or Mac, because I see you go by Mac a few times.
I go by both.
Okay, all right. So my number one question out the gate is, first off, holy crap, you've done so much in like such a short period of time, and it's fucking amazing. Like just kind of watching outside of your bubble, I'm like, oh man. Like I just saw the announcement that you were with Wizards, and then like almost out of nowhere, it's just like, and boom, working on the Critical Role books. Like, just it's been truly an honor to watch your progression. But I do have to ask, like, have you noticed any difference now that you're officially a Wizards of the Coast game designer versus when you were like, I'm guessing you did freelance for some time before then?
Yep. Yeah, I did freelance for about a year, a little less than a year before I officially joined over at Wizards. And there's some differences, but honestly, like not as many differences as I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
I think my biggest fear when I joined Wizards was like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to do weird shit. No, they encourage my whimsy at every level, and they're like, no, that's funny. Do that. That's great. There's a magic item in Strixhaven that is a bottle of bottomless coffee that started out as a joke from me because I was like, I'm a college student, and so I just like put it as a throwaway line on one of the tables, and then it ended up Jeremy Crawford was like, no, we got room in the book now. I'm making this a real item. And I was like, oh cool. So I am very happy that I've still been able to do my very silly things in full capacity, despite working up in the Wizard's Tower.
So, of course, I have to ask, with this bottle of infinite coffee, is it any kind of coffee or is it just black coffee?
I don't remember. I think it's hot coffee. I think it's specifically hot coffee.
Okay. All right, because I'm like, if I have a bottle of infinite Americanos or flat whites or mocha frappe, nobody like that. I need to find out how to make that real.
It's very good. I do remember though, when I first made it, Jeremy Crawford was like, yeah, so we're just gonna put a limit on this, because technically, if a smart person were to able to get this bottle, they could technically flood the universe with coffee because there is no limit to it. And I went, oh.
And that's when
okay, yeah. You're not wrong.
That's when I look at Jeremy and I go, that's the point. That's the adventure hook. The world is being flooded with coffee. Nobody knows where it's coming from, and you have to stop it. Or don't. Like, just can't think of a better way to go.
Pull ye olde molasses floods.
Oh gosh, the great molasses flood.
There was a whiskey flood that people were like dying because they were like drinking the whiskey. But so the other question that I have is like, so Wizards is they are the name in the space. And for better or worse, people have their opinions about Wizards.
Yes.
And so one of the things that, I personally worry about, because I have friends that work with Wizards, is a lot of the times the biases that people might have for the company overall, whether negative or positive. I worry about people placing that on the individuals that work there. Have you had that encounter at all? Has anyone not seen you as a person because of who you work for?
Oh gosh, that has certainly happened a couple of times. It'll usually happen. Thankfully, because I was able to develop a little bit of a rapport with people who I admire and trust in the space before I joined Wizards. It didn't happen among like my friend groups, which is where it would have hurt the most.
Yeah.
But certainly, I've noticed, like when I was at GDC a couple weeks ago, there was that certainly people would always look and see what company you worked for, and that would kind of determine how they treated you. And it's the Game Developers Conference is a very interesting sort of gathering of folks, because it is simultaneously like everyone's trying to network, but also everyone, because of that, you stop losing the person aspect of networking, and it just starts becoming like who you are is like part of a company. And so I certainly know when I was walking around, I definitely got people who were like, oh yeah, you work for Dungeons and Dragons, that's so cool. Disregard who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And the other place it came up, and it's really weird, it was on dating apps.
Okay, I do have to tell you, you did a little tweet thread called Mac versus Mac. I was in tears laughing. But do you have any stories that you want to share with how it's affected the dating app world?
Oh, it's so like I don't hide I didn't hide the fact when I was on dating apps. Like I was obvious, like, yeah, I work for Wizards of the Coast. I had D&D on my profile. And oh my god, the number of people who would come and is sliding into my DMs fangirling over me is too many. Was the non-zero amount, and I was like, I don't want to date you because you're fangirling over me, and so I'm so deeply uncomfortable. I think one person was like, oh my god, you're the coolest person I've ever met on this app. You play D&D, you work for Wizards of the Coast. Oh my god, please date me.
See, I'm actually surprised, because I was worried you might get the other thing, which was like guys trying to like mansplain D&D to you.
Thankfully, no. Is this better? I don't know.
I couldn't rightly say if this is better or worse.
I tried, because I know I saved some screenshots. Now I'm like, where are those cursed screenshots? Let me find them.
People about to get put on blast. Oh god, dating apps are the worst. I almost want to ask you if you have a worse date story. I will trade you bad date stories.
There was a date going really well, and then they used the slur. So
that'll end it.
Yeah.
I accidentally went out with a MAGA person. Yeah, I found out at a comedy club because the comics started telling Trump jokes, and they got real mad and started heckling and got kicked out of the club.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. This wasn't as bad as the slur one, but there was a guy I did go on a date with, and he just wouldn't stop making D&D puns. And I was like, buddy,
Friend.
I know this is what I do for my job, but please stop.
I'm trying to figure out what D&D puns could you do on a date? Like,
oh, so many jokes about being like, oh, I guess you made a natural one on that. And I'm just like, you are lucky the sushi here is good. It is the only reason why I am staying.
I'm here for the food and not the company. Would you say that he rolled a natural one on his...
no.
I gotta go, Anita.
Bye.
I can't.
Bye.
Anita, we don't have sushi here. You're blowing it. No, I just realized how bad guys are at dating. I went to a bar recently and I saw this guy just like, you ever see like a gnat fly around a piece of fruit? Well,
Yeah.
he was doing that basically around this lady at the bar, and then like finally he broke down and go, and he just went, "I am flirting with you." I'm just like, bro, no. No.
I mean, I appreciate the forwardness.
I mean, if you gotta get to the point where you have to break it down into exact words of what you are doing. Friend, buddy, guy.
Buddy, my dude, my man, my bro. No.
Better luck next time, champ.
I mean, my
Yes.
favorite thing when I go out is like when I see people on what is clearly a Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, or whatever date.
Mhm.
It's like a sport. It's like you kind of watch it and you're just like, I don't know how this one's going, but but
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can harp on dating forever because
Oh, no, it's fine.
It is
It's
so
great.
cringe. It is so cringe.
The fact, look, I never expected to have like a thread, the Mac versus Mac thread, and then the sequel Mac versus Romance thread that came about. Like, I never
I didn't see
expected.
that one.
Oh, it's basically just a lot of people after the Mac versus Mac thing fizzled out. People were like, no, we still want to know what happens. And I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this. So now I've got like the follow-up of just general Mac goes on various dates and has romantic escapades, and most of them end poorly. Thread that has gone out. Never expected that. I genuinely joined dating apps on a joke. Like it was for a bit. I joined Hinge because it had a voice prompt, and I was like, yes, one of the prompts is make your best celebrity impression. So I just did the Nazgul screech from Lord of the Rings.
I love it. I love it so much.
That was it. That's the sole reason why I joined dating apps. And literally everything else that has come after it has been a bonus.
Yeah, like most apps, I feel like people never really intended to join, but they get duped into it. Like I got duped into TikTok. I then duped Anita into joining TikTok.
It's a big
It's
mistake
like
in my life.
I've never met somebody that was just like, I'm purposely going to join a dating app or TikTok. It's always like some kind of trick.
We did the same thing with Darby, though, to be fair.
Well, I don't think Darby posts on TikTok.
Darby doesn't post, but Darby sends DMs like
yeah,
nobody
obsessed. Yes. So, can I ask, how did you start your game designing career? Like, how did you start?
So I had always wanted to do like game design because I went to university for creative writing, and then I got a minor in computer science, which is kind of like the video game-esque realm. I started tabletop design though because I got real depressed in my sophomore to junior year of university, and I messed up and didn't have anything to put in a portfolio to apply for internships.
Ooh.
So I was a little bit of a bind there, and one of my friends, James Hake, who was one of the co-leads for Call of Another Deep and has done a bunch of Critical Role stuff, he sort of nudged me towards publishing stuff on the DMs Guild, and I just was like, I like D&D. I think it is cool, and it sort of makes sense to me how the mechanics work. So I'm just gonna put some stuff up on DM's Guild, and that way I have stuff in my portfolio. And so I did that. And then it turns out I really enjoyed designing for D&D way more than I enjoyed designing for like video games or stuff like that. And so I just kind of kept doing it. And then I ended up starting to do the streaming thing, which I also really enjoyed. And so once I had started growing a little bit of an audience with the streaming thing and doing more design work, sort of tandem, then it started snowballing. And I got more practice with design. I got more practice with streaming. I got more practice being a performer. And I got more practice marketing myself and getting my name out there. And then eventually I started getting bigger freelancing jobs, like with MCDM and D&D Beyond. And then it all sort of, I don't want to say spiraled because that implies it going downward, but like it spiraled upward.
Yeah, there we go. Can I ask, what is it about tabletop that you like more than like designing for video games?
I think for me, it was always something like when it just comes to designing for video games, oftentimes I didn't realize the mechanics and the narrative are often very disparate. The people who are designing the mechanics for video games are often not on the same team as the people who are designing like the script or the story for the video games. Like sometimes they'll intersect, but it's very rare. When it came to tabletop, it was both of them in tandem. You have your mechanics and your story working almost like sentence right after sentence. And instead of having two separate people, like one person working on the design and one person working on the mechanics, it was the same person. So it was the same idea, the same through line. And it hit both the things I liked. I don't necessarily love number crunching, but there's something about like mechanic design and figuring out how to balance that sort of thing and that more empirical approach to design that massages a part of my brain that likes that. But I also love telling stories. I love being a narrative designer, and I love being able to facilitate storytelling. And so being able to do them in tandem has been very interesting and very fun. And I didn't really get that when I was designing for video games. Even if like point and click or like narrative based like visual novel sort of things, it was always kind of design around the mechanics that already existed, and that was always a little hard for my brain to grasp.
Okay, yeah, I mean, and I could see that. I mean, if there's a division between the people who are doing the narrative and the mechanics, if you have a narrative beat that's like, it'd be really cool if people had to like jump down a waterfall and like, and grab onto something to survive. The people who are working on the mechanics are gonna like, no, we're not deciding that, which kind of sucks.
Yep.
And I also have to mention, you're like, I think the third or fourth designer that we've had on here that's mentioned the DM's Guild. So that seems to be like a really wonderful, I almost said like birthing pod, or like it seems like I can't see. This is why I'm not a designer, because I can't words.
Birthing pod, gateway, same thing.
There it is. Yeah. There it is. So like, what would you say about your time working with the DM's Guild? Like, how was that?
It was, so it does not make a lot of money. It is very rare that there are some creators who are able to make like a lot of money off the DM's Guild. That was not me and was never me. And if you're looking to make profitable like TTRPG content, DM's Guild is a shot in the dark. I
Okay.
will say though that the DMs Guild, what it is good for is not only getting your name out there and getting a lot of good practice with design, it's also very good for collaboration. Some of my best friendships and best partnerships came about through DMs Guild collaborations. And it is very much a great place to try and experiment within the realm of D&D. Because the thing about the DMs Guild is that you are allowed to use everything in that has been published in or most everything that has been published by WotC. Normally under the OGL, you can only use things that are in the systems rules document, which is complicated and legal stuff, the legal snafus, blah, 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 blah. But on the DMs Guild, you have a lot more tools to play with, especially if you're coming from someone who knows D&D really well. You have a lot more to play with and you don't have to deal with the legalese of the OGL.
Yeah.
Which is very nice. Yeah.
I just did a little bit of research on that. Like, I didn't realize that ASMR, for example, aren't part of the SRD.
Nope, they're not.
You would have to, if you wanted to be in the DMs Guild to do something with them, which is ASMR my favorite. So it's just okay.
Yep.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying, it's also been very fun. What is it? The thing I won an Any award, the Canarls Candy Compendium, where it's just a bunch of magical candy, was done through DMs Guild. And that was super fun because there's you could get a lot of reach on it. It's very easy to format or not format, but it's very easy to upload and get templates. And it's a fun playground to play in. And I have met some wonderful collaborators through DMs Guild stuff that I wouldn't have met otherwise.
Heck yeah. I'm definitely recommending that to a couple of my friends that want to get into design. And it's always good to hear more about it from people that have experienced it and kind of moved on from it. So yeah, thank you for that. Anita, were you about to say something?
Yeah.
I was going to say that you're also the lead writer of the Islands of Sina Una, and you're the third Sina Una person that we've spoken to on this show. We spoke initially to Wasa, and then to Paladin, and now to you.
I love.
So, do you want to talk a little bit about that experience?
People.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
Yes, I love. Oh God, the Islands of Sina Una have so much of my heart in them. I was one of the. I don't want to say later editions, but I joined the project after the Indiegogo had closed. So I was brought on later to be the lead writer. And oh man, it was so much fun and so stressful and so cathartic. And I cannot say I would do it again, but I love it to bits.
That's the response almost everybody I've talked to. I'm so glad that we reached the finish line. But oh my God.
Look, I read a whole 60-page PDF only to use 3 paragraphs from it. I never want to do that again.
So can I ask you the difference in responsibility from being a lead writer to just being a writer on a project?
There's definitely a shift up in responsibility. Surprisingly, for a lead writer, I didn't do a lot of writing. I did do some writing, but as lead writer, the majority of my job was actually just providing the template and strictures for what everyone else needed to write. So basically it was here is the chapter breakdowns, here's all the different sections. What islands do you want to write for? What sections of the islands do you want to write for? Blah, blah, blah. Here, go take that. And that was the majority of my job as lead writer, was just organizing and delegating. Once that had been finished, I also did a lot of the connective tissue So I did a lot of like the first chapter where I write a lot about like the intro and do a lot of like the overview before you get into the details of the book.
Right.
So that was majority of like for a lead writer, you don't do a lot of writing or a lot of like the narrative text. It's often much more delegating and then filling in connective tissue and making sure everything connects smoothly rather than actually writing.
Okay.
I did do a lot of like writing and design for that book as well. I did a lot of work on the subclasses and the core classes, and the spells and the magic items, and a lot of the mechanical stuff have my grubby handprints all over them.
See go ahead.
No, go ahead. I just said that we have a question from chat, but we're gonna get to that.
I was just gonna say with delegating, the thing that's rough about that is making sure things come in on time. Like I hate delegating.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Especially if you're working with friends, because it's just like, oh, I have to hunt you down, and I hate this.
Yep, that certainly happened during Cena Una, but also it was the pandemic, so we were like way more like, do your best. It's fine. It's fine. We're all struggling. It's fine.
Everyone is stressed. It's okay. We do have a question from chat. With
Yes.
the thoughts that you have about the DM's Guild, do you have any pros and cons or thoughts about a site like itch.io?
I think they're both good for the things that they are good for. Like the things I've published on Itch would not be good to be published on like DM's Guild or like TTRPG, because I have like one page TTRPGs that are up on Itch that wouldn't do as well, I think, on like a platform like Drive-Thru, because Drive-Thru is very much good for like bigger PDFs and heftier projects, and Itch for me, which is like, here's a one-page TTRPG that I designed for a class. Here, have fun.
It's good for micro games, probably.
It's good for micro games. I also know there are people who have published like fuller games on Itch to very, very good success, but I that has never been something I have done, and I cannot speak to that because I do not have the experience with it, but I certainly know many folks who have, and they speak very highly of it. I do think Itch has a better, or not better, but it has a different payout system that I think people like better than like Drive-Thru RPG. But those were never a large source of my income as a freelancer, so it all kind of became the same sort of like small fractional portion of
it's mostly at a certain point it's good for building up like a portfolio or a body of work to show diversity in like the writing samples that you have for bigger projects.
Certainly.
I only just realized that Itch also has a couple of video games on there.
Oh, it has plenty of like Itch. The other thing that's really good about Itch is that it does allow for multimedia upload. So more than just PDFs, folks have like full video games, full downloadable content, all that stuff.
There's procedurally generated maps that you can get through someone's Itch page. Like it's just the program literally just does a procedurally generated like world, which is very cool.
Oh, but really good question. So so I think what I want to ask you next is just like, what's the part of game design that is the easiest for you and the one that takes the most amount of work for you?
Trying to think.
Like, I love coming up with ideas. I hate writing.
I think that's literally almost every writer. I don't think I have ever met a writer who's like, I hate coming up with ideas, but I love writing. I don't think I've heard any writer actually say that. Oh gosh. I certainly love coming up with ideas. I'm trying to think like what is for when it comes to things that are easiest for me. I think it would be like I always like I guess character driven things. So subclasses, or like designing a through line for a subclass. Or like designing like different magic items and like weapons or other small things that are very like character focused. Those things come easier for me. When it comes to crafting like adventures and things that are more plot driven, especially when it comes to like trying to design them within the framework of a game where choice is very important and role playing is very important. I struggle a lot with that.
Okay.
Just because it's for me, I always like approaching game design like I'm building a sandbox or I'm building a Lego set where I am collecting the pieces together that I will present to someone else with which they can build something on their own. Where it's like, here are all the different pieces of a puzzle, and how you put them together is entirely up to you. But I like building those blocks and giving the guidance for how to build that puzzle and giving someone the freedom. When it comes to like, and that's what I feel like designing like subclasses or things like where you take a character and there's that clear progression of growth and a clear space to play in with how someone designed the character. It also happens with like when we're designing like world guides or gazetteers where you're just providing little bits and pieces of a setting that people can take and choose and do with as they will. When it comes to designing like an adventure where it's like, okay, yeah, I need to get people from A to B to C in varying formats, but they all eventually have to converge at these specific points. It feels a little bit more, I don't want to say restrictive, but I have to.
Feels like herding cats when I try it.
Kind of, yeah, a little. It feels like also I hate being told what to do, and so I am then writing what people are supposed to do. And every time I have tried to play test an adventure I've written, I've gotten mad at myself because I've gone, you don't get to tell me what to do. Shut up. I don't want to do that.
Oh my God, yeah, same. Because it's just like, but what if I want to hop out the window? Then clearly I'm supposed to go through the door, but what if I want to go out the window?
Yeah. And so it's like my spiteful tendency to rebel against someone telling me what to do makes designing adventures really hard. Because I'm like, I just like providing like bits and pieces and then letting someone else decide what to do. When I have to actually tell them what to do, I start to like grapple with myself and bash my own head against myself.
Feel that so hard.
It's still fun, and I quite love like enjoying like designing adventures. But I know myself, like I will struggle designing adventures. Just sitting there going, I don't want to do. What if they do this, and what if they do this, and what if they do this? And I know as me as a player would never do this, but I have to put it in.
I don't know. I designed an entire adventure about people chasing a snail through the streets of a town, and one of my players decided to eat the bioluminescent algae that was on the walls of a cave, and I'm like, well, okay. Let's figure out what this happens.
And that's the other thing that's like hard about like adventure writing, but also I think the fun part is that you cannot account for every single outcome. So you just have to provide the framework to let someone else account for every single outcome and then just pray.
It's like someone's gonna want to eat these weird mushrooms that are in this cave that are obviously illuminating it, so here we go. At a certain point, you gotta like let go of your baby and let it out in the world.
Oh God, yep.
Do you have an easier time with higher level or lower level adventures? Because I think personally, higher level adventures are far more difficult to write for, just because the players have access to so much at that point.
Yep. I think there is like extremely low level adventures are certainly their own kind of challenge to write for, because you have to scale back your ideas so much. And if you want, like, when I've written lower level adventures, it's always like there's always like a grandness that I always want to put in adventures, like that sort of epic sweeping feeling. And I have to always remember when it's like first, second, third level adventures. Nope, no, they're baby. They're baby. They will not survive.
What do you mean they can't face 2 adult dragons?
Must protect.
Yes. And I have at this point, thankfully, I've had experience designing, I think, across the swath of different levels. And I think there is, when it comes to like higher level adventures, the trick isn't necessarily like coming up with new challenges. It's just making sure those challenges aren't just, here's a sack of hit points, bash them.
Yeah. I agree with that. And we also have another question in the chat here, which is, so would stating goals or objectives rather than events be helpful in designing?
So yes and no. You always want to, let me go put my designer hat on. When you're designing an adventure, you do want to state like the objectives and the goals of the adventure very clearly for the DM to communicate exactly what the point of everything is. And that way, when things go off track, because they will, they understand what the overarching goal is. That being said, you do have to specify the events in an adventure because the DM needs the different scenes and the different encounters to actually run. How much an individual DM decides to stick to these scripted events or not is entirely up to them, but you still need to include them because you don't know whether or not a DM will need them or not. Taking design hat off.
When you said things are gonna go off the rail, I saw 1,000-yard stare for a second, like all the memories of all the games that have gone off.
Here's the other thing. The thing that makes designing adventures really hard. I don't plan as a DM. Like Makenzie as a DM in her fun time does not plan at all. I have very vague outlines of what occurs in my D&D games, and it's more they're always very character driven, so I always know like this character knows these things and wants this thing, this character knows these things and wants these things. I kind of know what might happen with those goals in mind and what they're trying to do off screen, but as for like the actual plot, it unfolds as the characters push forward with their motivations. I very rarely actually like plan out dungeons or plan out specific encounters. I have a couple of them like rolling around in the back of my mind in case like something happens in the session. I know, okay, if they do this, then this will probably trigger like this handful of creatures that'll show up. But very, very rarely do I have anything broken down more than just that genericness, because I'm a very flexible yes and sort of DM that I like to follow where the characters want to go.
Right. That has been the most inspiring thing you've said to me today, because I'm like, that's the kind of GM I am. Okay, maybe there's hope.
oh yeah, no. Like I as someone who like I have to my saying is, it is my job to know the rules of D&D. So the minute I am off the clock, the rules go out the window.
Yes. So
like
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's it. Just like, yeah, like I know the rules. I am supposed to know like how things go. I am supposed to be very procedural, very direct. I'm supposed to know my dice, know my rules, and adhere to them.
Yeah.
Because it is my job to know them like the back of my hand and write for them. In my fun time, fine.
It's goblin tossing all the rules out the window.
Is it fun? Then no.
So my next question is like, what inspires you? Like, what are your go-to movies? What are your go-to TV shows that you're just like, ooh, this fires up an idea in the old noggin?
God. It's just, the answer is so many, so I'm trying to like sort through like all the flood that just hit my brain. So I always like I am very much a kind of person who very strongly believes in like finding the magic in the mundane. And
Mhm.
so there are a lot of things that for my campaigns and other places where I'll draw inspiration from that are just like day-to-day life based.
Okay.
I for my senior thesis, because I was a gremlin and I convinced my senior thesis supervisor to let me do this. My senior thesis was an entire 5e setting based around the college town that my university was in.
Oh, that's sick.
Which is super fun, and that basis is what is actually the setting for one of my the home game I DM. This sort of urban fantasy, modern magic, brick and neon sort of setting that brings to life a lot of like the almost like, I don't want to say grungy aspects, but that sort of idea where there is magic in the city and everyone kind of knows it, but no one speaks about it. That sort of hidden weirdness that everyone just goes, that's just how it is. Because I grew up in Southern California, and a lot of times that was just kind of the attitude. People like, it's just Southern California. It just is. And it was like that kind of attitude and that feeling of growing up in this place where everything felt so blandly normal that my brain was like, there has to be something more here because nothing cannot be just this normal. And taking that and just running with it. And those are, and I take that with like, even now in like day-to-day life, when I go out and like, I'll go to trips and places, I'm always kind of keeping an eye out for what kind of things in everyday mundane life, if you actually just look at them, feel innately magical or strange, and just taking that and seeing where my brain will go with it, taking that nugget of reality and just running wild.
That's I love that. Like I have experience with that on the other side of things where it's just like a lot of my settings, all of my settings are in Chicago because this place seems so obviously magical to me. Like there's things that I can't explain and it's just like, well, it's Chicago. And so like putting magic to things that are, you know, extraordinary, and then also putting magic to things that are so normal. I really respect that. So here's another one. I mean, your work is D&D, like it's like it's why we're all here. It's the hobby. So how do you make sure that you don't lose the magic of loving your hobby when it's also your job?
Very carefully planned like divisions in my brain, essentially. like I said, on the clock versus off the clock, two very separate things.
Partition, it's right there.
Yeah. And it's very much like I have like the game I DM, and I have to I don't want to say very like clearly, but I make an effort to make sure I play games for fun. And I make sure that during those games, I take my rules brain and I eat it. Because if I let work influence when I play, then it stops being play. It starts being like work and it starts being design. And I can't do that because then everything is work and I burn out. And I burnt out really heavily when I was a freelancer because I was doing so much work and so much like streaming D&D where I didn't play for fun. And I stopped playing for fun and I stopped remembering why games were fun. And it was just a job for me. It was a performance. It was things I did sort of disassociated from the rest of me. And that's not fun. It's not good. So I very, too. Yep, it's very much unhealthy. So I do very much put in so much effort to make sure I set aside time to play games for fun. And in those games, I very much will only turn on rules brain if someone's like, Makenzie, what are the rules? And I'll go, okay, I know this.
Let's just unlock
and I will
that
answer
real quick.
I will unleash the one rules gremlin as it runs out of my brain to deliver its message.
I'm sorry, I'm just imagining you as like one goblin made up of several gremlins.
Yes.
The gremlin.
Hello.
Several
lawyer came
gremlins
out.
in a Mac suit.
Yeah. several green gremlins in a Mac suit. That's my secret. I'm always gremlins.
Gremlins all the way down, baby.
I'm sorry. All right. All right. So we're gonna take a pause from these questions to ask one of the questions I think the world needs to know.
The world needs
All
to know
right.
this.
Uh-huh.
Yes, the world needs to know this. There is a war, a silent war happening in the TTRPG community between those. Yeah, it's starting to get a little bit louder. Somebody wrote a song for it. Where some of us think that dice don't belong in your mouth because that's gross. Others of us, however, feel like dice are forbidden candy, made to be nommed on. Now in this war, we've tried to create peace by like, what if there were like edible dice? And the people that put dice in their mouth go, well, that's crunching and not crunching, and we want to crunch our dice. So the war continues.
Mm-hmm.
So the question that I have for you is, what side of this war are you on? Are you on the crunch side, or are you on stop the crunch?
So here's the problem with this question. I am autistic, and one of my stims is chewing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, do I want to put the dice in my mouth? But that is not because the dice are anything remarkable. I just want to put things in my mouth because that's a problem I have. That's my stim. I chew on things. So I guess technically I'm on the side of the dice crunching.
No!
But like not because I specifically want to crunch the dice, but just because I kind of want to nom on everything, and the dice happen to also be there. Conversely, though, I don't really have a lot of dice that don't have like special meaning to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so like all the dice, like I'm not a dice goblin. I might be a gremlin in various other things, but I am not actually a dice goblin. I don't hoard dice. I have been very, very, very particular about when I buy dice and when I have dice. So the set of dice I use when I DM is entirely comprised of sets that have either been gifted to me or sets that I have bought to commemorate projects that have completed or campaigns that I finished. And so because of that, I don't want to put those dice in my mouth because they mean a lot to me, and I don't want to mess them up by chewing on them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not like, I would not crunch my own dice. But I can't say that I wouldn't crunch dice, but that's not because I want to eat the dice specifically. It's because I have an oral stim, and that is
That's valid.
Yeah, that's valid. I would just like to remind folks that there's chewable dice for folks with chew stimming.
Yes, there are, and they're very good.
Yeah, you can go to a place called Chulery, and they've got tons of stuff you just nom on. Because we don't put dice on.
Yes, that's fair. You probably shouldn't.
Yeah, or you go to jail.
Look, I don't think you should chew dice. I think if you want to chew dice, you should get dice that are specifically made for your chewing stems. That being said, I cannot honestly say I have not thought about it.
Be crunch responsible.
I mean, we've all thought about. We've all thought about chewing our dice. I'll confess to that much. I've thought about it. I've looked at the die and gone, maybe nom time, maybe nom time. But you know, it's but you don't cross that line. You know,
I may have crossed that line a couple. I may have just gone, what if I have
I'm trying to so badly steal you on the side of those crotch. Okay, fine. Crotches, you got one. You got one. The streak is broken. I'm not mad about this.
Look, I will not say it's just like, look, I get it. I get why people do it, and so I can't. I would like to be Switzerland in this scenario, but
don't you prettily
must not
mulligan
lie.
me. Don't you do it.
I must not tell a lie and say that I have never put a die in my mouth. Like I have done it.
Damn it.
I have done it. I am sorry. I must confess these sins of mine. I have attempted to crunch the dice.
Never meet your heroes. This interview is over.
Sorry, Noir. Look.
All right, fine. It's fine. It's cool. It's
All
cool.
right.
We're all cool,
Okay.
man. Let me ask the next question. And this is all Abria's fault too. Every time somebody says the crotch, it's Abria's fault. All right.
She's weaponizing the crotch.
Don't you do it, Mac. Don't you do it, Mac. Don't. Cut the camera. Cut the camera.
This is big crunch too. It's one of those hefty ones.
It's large.
Lorg boy.
I
All
have
right.
the chonker.
Don't encourage this, Anita. We're supposed to be a unified front.
I am on the side of chaos, as always. I am crotch responsibly.
No, there is no crunching responsibly. That's why we're trying to stop.
If you said we can get chewable dice.
Well, that's not crunching. That's chewing. The crunchers have made it very clear that crunching is something specific, which is taking an actual die that you play with and
Just
the
make sure
show's
you
gone
don't,
off the rails again.
Yeah, it's
just
all
to
right.
make sure you don't choke on it. I cannot in good faith say don't crunch because I am very aware of people's stims, and I cannot say that because so I'm sorry. I'm making my stance.
The line is
That's
drawn
it.
here. This far and no further.
And no further.
Yeah, crunching is about mouthfeel. Crunching is about mouthfeel.
Oh wait! First off, you're not gonna support anything Rashani says. Rashani is a crotching terrorist. It needs to be stopped. Did we just say mouthfeel?
Correct.
Yeah, we've gone all the way. All right. To bring us back, I'm gonna ask the other question that we had, which is if you could play with any 5 living people right now, any TTRPG of your choice, and you get to choose who the GM is, who are you picking? The Dice Narc? I'm not a Dice Narc. You're a Dice terrorist.
I'm looking at chat, still answering this question.
I know, right? They're still going.
They go
Oh,
off the rails
God.
occasionally. They just have their own fun.
Like-
It's fine.
Like, I would love to, like, do... I personally, like, I love being a GM, and so, like, in this scenario, I would love to be the GM for this hypothetical table,
Mhm.
I think. But I'm having a hard time, like, differentiating in my brain between, like, 5 people I would love to play a game with and just 5 people I'd really like to hang out with, and our excuse happens to be D&D, and those are very different things.
You know what? That is a fair question.
That is
Oh,
very
goodness.
valid. What's up? You good?
Oh,
Just tangled up.
Oh no.
I'm good.
Okay. Your mic just did the little fuzzy thing again.
Am I still fuzzy?
Yeah, you got the little hum.
Sorry. One
No, you're
second.
good.
I shall fix.
but there's two different lists. I'd say I'd allow the two different lists. One for like friends to hang out and D&D is the excuse, or people that you'd play with.
Yeah. I think I can consolidate them into one list. I have gotten a chance to play D&D with him once, but I would love to do it again because he is a sweetheart, and I honestly just want to hang out with him because he's lovely. Matt Mercer, especially when I played D&D with him, and then we ended up working together closely for called Another Deep. And so we became slightly better friends through there. And so I wanted to play D&D with him again because he seems like a chill guy. And he's a wonderful friend. And I've told him this after we finished working Another Deep, but he is one of the reasons why I am in the space. I got into D&D specifically because of Critical Role, because my ex at the time, or my partner at the time, his school had his D&D group, and I wanted to join my university's D&D group, but my university's D&D group said that there weren't any spaces left, and sorry, I couldn't play. So in order to, which is probably there's other things going on there, and I do not. Bad vibes, but whatever. Yeah. So in order to be able to keep up with what my then partner was telling me about his games at the time, he recommended I start watching this cool show he had found, and so I did. And that's how I ended up getting into D&D, was through watching that show because I couldn't actually play, which has made like working on like the Critical Role books and like working on Call of Nether Deep and doing all that stuff has been wonderfully cathartic and full circle for me. And I'm immensely grateful for that experience. So I would love to play with him. I would love the chance to play with Abria again, because I got to play in a campaign with Abria before, and she is lovely, and I adore her creative energy to bits, and I miss her. This is starting to become a list of people I miss and I just want to see.
Oh, I know. I feel that's hard.
You're also spouting our dream guest list. So keep going.
Okay. So I try to break away from people who are just friends that I really would like to see and hang out with. I think someone else I would really like to play with would be Felicia Day.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
She is a very wonderful individual from what I've seen. But also the reason why I want to play with her is because I actually, for school, I read one of her memoirs, which is that you can't be weird on the internet or something. I don't remember the exact title.
Yeah.
You mostly can't be weird on the internet or something
mostly.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember because I was reading that at around the same time where my life in the TTRPG space was starting to pick up, and I was starting to get like, I hate when I say it, like I was starting to get being brought onto bigger projects, and people were starting to know of me, and I was gaining a reputation. And I very much dislike talking about that because I don't like talking about like, oh, I'm well known in the space, blah 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 blah, because I am, in comparison to many others, a tiny fraction of a person. But I remember when I was initially struggling with that idea of like being known and being recognized at like cons and stuff, I was reading her book, and she uses this very wonderful term called situationally famous that describes how you can exist in a space and be suddenly well known and then immediately like move to a different space and then go to the grocery store like a totally normal person. And that helped me sort of better understand the reality I was starting to experience. And it helped me deal with a lot of like the imposter syndrome and that feeling of, am I imagining this? Is this correct? Do I deserve this? And that sort of thing. And so I've always wanted to in some way thank her for that, even if it was never what she like. Even if I am just someone who read her memoir, I do appreciate what she put down.
It's a very good book. It's a very good read. I've read it as well.
It's a very good read. So that's 3.
Mhm.
Oh God.
I know, it's a hard question. It's a hard question.
That's why I love asking it. Punish the ones that crunch.
You were gonna ask me this regardless of my answer.
Yes, but I'm enjoying it. Before I would have felt bad.
Rude noir.
Behold my petty at work.
So here's the list of people I don't want to play with. The top is noir.
I'm number 1 on a lot of people's list on that one.
I'm kidding. I do want to play with you at some point.
I want to play with you too, but I'm not.
Yes.
I'm just trying to act tough on the internet. Don't let them know I'm sensitive.
Oh goodness, I'm trying to think. Like I'm trying to go into like my so there is someone I follow on TikTok. He is the Lord of the Rings obscure facts guy.
Oh,
Don
yes.
Marshall.
Oh yeah.
I would love to play with him. He seems like such a genuine guy.
Oh, he knows everything.
Everything.
Like,
He's so cool.
I'd like to see him do a showdown with Stephen Colbert.
that would be
cool.
That would be something. Speaking of, like, isn't Colbert about to play with the Critical Role team again?
I believe
for
so,
Red
yeah.
Nose Day. It's that was
Yep.
I am.
the second time that he's done it too.
Well, he did a one-on-one.
He did a one-on-one with Matt. Yeah,
but this time
Yeah.
I think it's the whole crew. Which
I'm not sure.
I might have to catch up on season 3 if that's the case.
Yeah. Yeah. So that I've got 4.
Yeah,
So,
so far your table is the Lord of the Rings facts guy, Felicia Day, Matt Mercer, and Abria. Ooh,
the stack table.
This is a good table.
This 5th person is
Good
coming
table.
into a really sick table.
I think. Trying to think. So, oh God, there's quite a few people I would maybe want for that 5th table or that 5th spot.
It's
Because-
messed up because all I'm thinking is like I know 2 of the people at that table are crunchers for sure.
Noir, you gotta let it go.
I can't. It's down to my core now.
Oh gosh. So I think I would say maybe for the 5th, like now that I'm going through my roster of cool TikTokers I follow, the person who runs Quincy's Tavern.
Oh,
God, he's. Oh no, I'm getting hit the bar too hard. But I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He was just at D&D in a castle too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
He seems very lovely, and I would love to play with him. And like I only follow his content, but I admire his content greatly, and I admire what he does with his content. And that, especially that style of content where it is almost like talking to a generic person in that tavern and creating that environment and just like pushing the boundaries of imagination and like this idea of this place that is intersected with everything else in the multiverse. I love it, and I admire that kind of storytelling so much, and I would love to get a chance to play with them. Would be super neat. Let's see. Yeah.
There's a whole branch of sorry.
Oh, so the honorable mentions would also be, I think, like Gaten Matarazzo from Stranger Things.
nice.
Oh, okay.
Honorable mention, and then I guess honorable mention also like Stephen Colbert, but I think he's like on everyone's list of if I get to play D&D with him, that would be lovely.
Him, Vin Diesel, and The Rock. Weirdly enough, are on
Yeah,
everybody's
so
list.
those are the ones that usually. Actually, Stephen Colbert has not come up.
That's true.
in too many people's lists. It's usually Vin Diesel and The Rock. I don't know. I like Vin Diesel. I understand because we know for sure that he plays. The Rock. I don't know why people. Well, he's The Rock
because he knows
I
how to
was
play
like,
a character.
he seems like a very lovely guy.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Jack Black would be. I know he did D&D live last year. He seems like a lovely fellow to play D&D with.
Yeah, I only got to watch a little bit of that, but yeah. The more I think about it, though, like the more I'm like, I still think that low key the best D&D player of all time would be Cardi B. I don't know why, but I feel like if somebody gets Cardi at a table, magic is gonna happen.
Fair.
Well, we've been at this for about an hour and 15 minutes. Do we want to take like a quick 10-minute break and then
Absolutely
swing back? All right, everybody. We are going to be right back. We've got a couple advertisements for our friends over at Deimos Academy, and because their Kickstarter's still running for a little bit yet, and a couple promo vids for the channel. So we'll see you in a few. We're back. It was a hard cut. That should have transitioned, but we're fine. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this episode of Morning Ritual. Wait, one sec. Let me just try this again.
Okay.
Wait, what are we trying again? Can I keep eating my pineapple?
Eat your pineapple. Okay, now we're back. There.
Woo!
There's a transition. I made it happen.
Oh.
There's no hard cut. No hard cuts here.
No hard cuts here.
I got pineapples.
This is our what we affectionately refer to as the dark roast, where we might talk about some heavier topics, but mostly we'll probably talk about why the X-Mansion doesn't have any wheelchair ramps, or
how does Professor Xavier get to where he's going without any ramps in the X-Mansion?
Does he? I feel like he did, at some point he just has to levitate himself, right?
I mean, can he do that?
I don't think he's telekinetic. I think he's just telepathic.
Oh, he's only telepathic, I think.
Yeah, so you'd have to get one of the telekinetic students to
Wait,
that.
hold on. Hold on. I think he might actually.
Maybe he is just telekinetic. I don't know. I am not the most well versed in my X-Men lore, so.
Colossus just carries him like a baby. No, that's dehumanizing.
Let's see.
The X-Men dehumanizing? Never.
Never ever.
He has some telekinesis via X headgear, according to Wikipedia.
Yep, he's got an ill-defined level of telekinesis, is what the Wikipedia says.
Interesting. But anyways, welcome to the
this is
Roast,
all
folks.
the show is now.
This is all it is now.
We're just going through Professor X's powers, and you have to watch us read the wikis.
Okay.
That's fair.
Maybe his chair can teleport, but only his chair.
Oh, that's the worst.
That's even worse than being carried around like a baby by Colossus.
All right, so here we go. If you could have any 4 characters' superpowers, what 4 are you picking?
Oh goodness. Trying to think. So, I guess what context? What kind of world context are we answering the question in?
You wake up tomorrow with these characters' powers.
In this world. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Cool. Gosh. Oh boy. I'm trying to think. Of course, the minute you ask me is the minute like all my knowledge of superheroes just like falls out of my brain and I have none of it.
Doesn't even need to be
left for the day.
superheroes. It could be like book characters, whatever you want.
Yeah, every single knowledge of anything is just out of it.
Any 5 spells from Dungeons and Dragons.
Oof.
That you can cast at will?
That you can cast daily. cantrips you can cast at will, but we'll say
Yeah, cantrips.
You can cast any level spell once a day.
Ooh, okay. So probably one of the teleportation spells would be my top one. So like teleport would be nice. Like teleportation circle. I think I don't know the range on gate, but gate would allow me to take more people with me easily and like take like cars and stuff because you can just open the door and just let it sit there. The cheesy answer would be wish because you can reenact any spell or you can recreate any spell effects with wish. And that's the original intention of wish. So but that's not very useful. Magnificent Mansion would be great.
Solve the housing crisis.
Yeah, but even don't you need gold to cast it every time?
Magnificent
Mansion? No.
You just need a portal that's shaped like a marble archway.
Really? I thought it had a gold cost.
I don't think Magnificent Mansion has a gold cost.
Oh, okay.
I know, I'm off the clock, man. Rules are out the window.
Oh no, you're good. I'm just like, if it doesn't have a gold cost, I owe
a miniature
couple
portal
of
carved
apology.
from ivory, a small piece of polished marble, and a tiny silver spoon. Each item worth at least 5 GP. It does not consume those components.
Consume it. So.
Oh, okay. Then I owe somebody an apology. That they'll never get. Look me in my eyes. I know you're probably watching. You're never gonna get that apology. Go fuck yourself.
And what cantrip would you pick?
Oh, Mage Hand, probably.
Yeah, I mean that's never having to reach for the remote again. Like, oh, my phone's over there.
Yeah. I am short. Having Mage Hand would allow me to use the top shelves. It would be lovely.
Oh, fuck. Could I use polymorph to make myself taller?
Technically, no, because polymorph only works on beasts.
You can use alter self.
But I would only appear taller.
No, alter self is different because you can actually change your physical form.
Yeah, alter self is actual changing your physical form. I think also seeming allows you to make the illusion, but the illusion feels real. So I don't know if you actually are taller or not, but yeah.
So
and then
with alter self, I could lose weight, grow taller, and probably get hair again.
For an hour.
For an hour.
Shit.
Or you can grow claws.
Oh, no, yeah, that's the other weird claws of alter self. Yeah,
claws, fangs, spines, and horns, or a natural.
No, I want to be high.
But claws are high.
And I don't see how these are mutually exclusive.
Listen, if you go on a date with somebody and then they just pop up with like freaking claws, I'm pretty sure that's a deal breaker for most folks. It got really quiet around here.
Unless you have a ring of alter self. Good point, AJ.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I might be maybe had like a couple other ones, but honestly it would be a lot of you know what'd be a great one I'd love freedom of movement. Oh my god, I would love to be able to not have to rely on like not have to slow down if I have my crutch and just be able to move at like normal speed with like my crutch and not have to worry about like difficult terrain or any of that with my crutch. That'd be so nice.
I would love freedom of movement just to troll the cops. You're under arrest. Let's see. Your handcuffs. They are powerless against me. I think that's how freedom of movement works. I don't know. Watch my dumbass gets the spell.
It says you could automatically escape from non-magical restraints, such as manacles, or a creature that has it grappled.
Yep.
I would be unarrestable. Now I just need something to make me bulletproof.
That would be so like going back to superpower thing. Like if like beyond like the utility superpowers of like if I just woke up like this morning, I would love to be able to just like passively regenerate like energy and just not feel so goddamn tired all the time. That would be a great superpower.
The catnap spell.
Yeah, that would be lovely. That would be great. But like if I ever was like in a superhero like comic book, I would very much want the power to control like density and alter density. So either become like super dense and like become bulletproof, or to be able to phase through walls and stuff like that. And like being able to manipulate object density, essentially becoming like impervious and being able to like jump and punch and like have super dense impacts, but also be able to just like phase out and have
Like,
things just pass through me.
Like Vision and Martian Manhunter.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I mean, I'm boring. I'd pick Superman.
That's fair.
He's got the best power set. Super speed, flight, invulnerability, heat vision, ice breath, mind erasing kisses. No, I'm kidding. That's
That was weird.
I don't know why they gave him that in the movies, but it's weird.
Because the writers wrote themselves into a corner and needed to make it so that Lois Lane didn't know his identity.
It's a weird way to go about it, man.
That's kind of how the comics worked, though. Is like anytime the writers put themselves in a corner, they gave Superman a new power set, or they explained it away through kryptonite.
Yep. Yep, pretty much.
So yeah, I'd just be Superman. He's got all the powers. I feel like there are some powers that you can't have and still be a good person, though. Like, if anybody says Professor X, that's like a warning sign. Like, you want to be in people's heads and control their minds? I don't know if you could be a good guy with that power.
It's a very tenuous line to walk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel about mind control the same way I feel about enchantment. It's just like,
yeah, that's actually like pulling back the curtain a little, like for the stuff that Makenzie runs in her own time, like enchantment spells against. I refuse as a DM to use enchantment spells against my player characters. I point blank refuse to use like enchantment magic. Not necessarily enchantment spells, because there are spells that are under the school of enchantment that I do still use, but like spells that would change, like that would persuade or push them in one direction or another, or like take away their agency. I point blank refuse as a GM to use against my player characters. I cannot.
Yeah, in instances where I would want to do that, I try to use illusion instead. Because I feel like illusion is a little bit more fair than enchantment. With illusion, you've got to do the work to understand the scenario you're in, but if you do that work and ask those questions, then you have a chance. But enchantment is just like, nope.
Yep. Yeah, I always prefer when I'm DMing is just like if I'm playing a character, and I it's not that I don't play like bad characters. I play very, very awful antagonists. But whenever it comes down to like trying to get someone to do what they want, it's through sheer regular, no magic, just deception and manipulation, and within boundaries of just like that they have information that you want. How much are you willing to do to get that information?
Yeah.
And it's way more, at least for me, it's way more satisfying to have someone willingly cave and know their character caved and know they have to deal with the consequences.
Yeah.
That's just way more tasty for me, like story-wise.
I mean, enchantment is one of those things in D&D and TTRPGs in general where if a GM can use it in a way that is impressive and fair, it's kind of like the same reaction I have to watching somebody do a really amazing dunk or home run, because it's not easy. Like enchantment is, if used poorly, it can destroy a game.
Oh yeah.
But to use it correctly as a GM, that is an impressive feat, and I think I've only seen it done a few times. The one time that it was used, and I was impressed by its use just because of the meta at the table and what it brought to the story, was with Matt Mercer, and it was during the Yasha run where Yasha didn't exactly remember the things that she had done before because of enchantment, essentially. It was used for the meta at the table because there was a player who couldn't always be there, so we needed an explanation. But it didn't take away from the character at all, and it didn't make the table unfair, which is like perfect. But I've seen some tables where a GM uses enchantment, and it's just like you can feel the cringe at the table.
Yep.
I think one of the things that I love about just GMing in general is there's a lot of intangibles that make for good versus bad GMs, and that's one of them. But that kind of begs the question that I'm going to pose to you. What do you think? What do you think are some of the ingredients of being a good GM?
Oh, that's oof. So this is specifically, when I answer this question, I will answer it with the caveat of these are things that I think make a good GM to match with my play style as a player. And that play style is very much I don't like feeling like I'm being told what to do. At the same time, I am also a player who's very much like, no. Here's a knife. Stab me.
I've given you this dagger, and it is also sharp. Here you are.
Yes. I'm also like the kind of player who's like, I am very much a player who loves, I don't want to say conspiring with the DM, but if the DM like has something, it's like, hey, I want your character to not necessarily like turn against the party or anything like that, but like have like some double motive or other like underhanding thing, as long as like I'm okay with it, as long as they're cool, like the rest of the party knows that maybe one of them might be turning against them. Like I am 100% happy to like double cross and do all that sort of thing. And so for me, what has become what I think makes a good GM for my play style is very much a flexibility. I don't want to say necessarily rule of cool, but a DM who rewards creative thinking. So if I go like, I want to try and do this thing in order to, get something to work, or if I want to try and do this like weird move in combat because to like get up close to this thing because it's a flying creature and I'm a melee fighter and I cannot get up close to it and do something, so can I try and freaking ride it? Like I'm gonna try and get up on top of it because otherwise I cannot do anything during this fight.
Right.
And DMs who are more willing to go, you know what? I appreciate the creative thinking. You can make a check for it. It may not like go exactly as you plan, but there will be some like falling forward momentum to it. Right. I have been in scenarios where I have tried doing those things and the DM is like, okay, roll me this check and then roll me this check. And it's like multiple checks. And if I fail one, then it's like I get ground to a halt. And I don't like that. I certainly I balk against DMs when I'm playing who focus too much on what they want to do as well. I'm very much when I am a player, I love focusing on the group. I love focusing on like my character, and I love focusing on like where the characters in the group want to go. And when a DM is very much like, I want to show off this X, Y, and Z, my gremlin brain that goes, I don't want you to tell me what to do, immediately like balks at that. But
don't you want to see this super cool villain monologue for 20 minutes?
It's like, no, I don't really want that.
I call those the novelist. It's just like, you would have been better writing a novel.
Yep. And I also like, I like DMs who, when it comes to emotional moments, they don't they let you feel whatever it is in that moment that you are feeling, and they don't try and force you one way or another to feel, or like they don't try and specifically evoke emotional moments. They are the ones that just sort of let emotional moments happen. I very much appreciate that, especially as someone who in certain scenarios doesn't entirely feel comfortable fully expressing emotions, um partly because of my autism and how my brain works, and also just partly because of who I am as a person. It is very rare that I am vulnerable enough to like cry or like really be in that emotional space, or for like emotions like grief or crying or mourning and stuff like that. I am more comfortable often being angry, or even just being like that accepting stage of grief where it's like I cannot change you and I'm fine with that. And I have balked at DMs who have tried to push me into like, you know, crying or being more emotional when I am not.
I've never experienced that. That sounds awful.
It's not my favorite. It has happened several times where I feel like the DM expected me to feel or react one way and I didn't, and because of that, it shuddered to a not a halt, but it just kind of felt weird.
Yeah. I've had that experience too.
Really?
Yeah, it a lot of times like certain GMs, when they set something up a certain way, especially if they're like a railroady GM, they want you to they've set this up specifically to get a specific reaction out of you. And it happens a lot with femmes I found at tables is and yeah, they'll set up the scenario in such a way to make sure that you get some sort of a specific reaction, and when you don't react that way, they don't get it because you didn't feed into their plan.
Yep. And I think there's a difference between like as a GM like expecting or like plan or not expecting for like a character to react a certain way when you drop something that's big to their backstory. I think there's nothing wrong with that. It's when you try and pigeonhole someone into an extremely emotional reaction that they're not having, that it causes a problem. Like I remember like I had a character who didn't have their father and didn't know their father, and that character didn't exactly care that much. The character had come to a very accepting point of, I don't know my parents, and that is fine for now. I will find them eventually, and I would like to know what happened, but if I never do, I don't think I ever will. And then we did end up meeting my father in that campaign later down the line, and my character's reaction was, I don't know you.
Yeah.
And it was that kind of blasé sort of reaction. And it wasn't as I have the feeling that I wasn't as extremely emotional towards that character as I think my DM wanted.
I'm sorry for I'm just very intrigued by this because I've experienced a lot of amazing GMs and a lot of ones that still need a lot of work, and that's just not something that I've come across in my journey. So
I think it's more common with puppet mastery DMs or railroaders.
Puppet master DMs, definitely. I see that 100%. And yeah, like I said, there's nothing wrong with like hoping or even expecting your players to react a certain way. It is when they don't react that way, and then you go, no, you were supposed to feel sad.
You're being sad wrong.
Your role playing,
that's kind of it. Yeah,
your role playing is wrong, and you should feel wrong about it.
I kind of think, like, personally, as you know, I love when my players' emotions absolutely don't match with what I had envisioned. I love kind of being thrown that curveball because it's just like, well, this is the tone I had set for this.
Yeah.
But I whiffed. And so, like, you know, you don't change. Like, I mean, you can change the world a bit, but I find it funnier to, like, okay, so the world is still reacting like how it was going to, but it's just the tonal difference is funnier when the players and their characters are just like, this means nothing to me, and the world is just like, ooh, like, I don't know. It's funny to me.
Oh, certainly, yeah. And it's like, I know there certainly have been times that I as a GM have been taken off guard by a player reaction. And that has been super fun. And I mean, of course, I have like taken a moment and like stopped and been like, that's not what I expected. Hold up, and having to recalibrate. But you know, there's a difference between that and going and feeling like, as a player, feeling almost guilty for how I reacted, and feeling like I didn't do what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, that is horrible. I'm sorry. So that has been, I think you answered my next question, which was like, you know, what are some ingredients that go into, you know, GMing that you like for your play style? The next one was going to be like, what are some ingredients to make a table that you do not want to be at? I mean, besides the obvious.
I was like, I mean, there's a whole shelf of no, but
no. But I mean, yeah, there's some things that are obvious. But I mean, are there any things that are like less subtle that you know? I'm trying to, like, for me, there is I'm having a hard time explaining it, but I hate when a GM can't tell the difference between the player and the character. And what I mean by that is, I've experienced a lot of GMs who let their own personal bias get in the way of, you know, embracing the illusion of us all being in a world together. And what I mean by that is, one of my first times playing, after I took a very long break, there was this GM that I played with that was treating our barbarian like, look, that was playing. I'm trying to explain this, and I'm doing a poor job because my words aren't working today. Essentially, he was not treating our barbarian like a barbarian because they were played by a femme, and I hate that. It's just so, like, you know, he wouldn't send the monsters the barbarian's way. He would send it at the wizard, who was like this buff dude in real life, but he's playing a wizard. So maybe swing at the barbarian. And so, like, you know, and that is a sign of a GM that still has a lot to learn. But, you know, even it's made me extra sensitive to it now. So even if I catch a whiff of it, probably not going to enjoy the table. So is there anything like that? Is what I'm trying to say.
One of my big like red flags is like if safety tools or safety cards are never like explicitly gone over. If it's like an implicit thing, I very much get very nervous over that. If it's just sort of a like, oh, I mean, I trust you to bring something up if something comes up, it's like, I would prefer a framework, please. I would prefer a framework with which to reference exactly what is good and what is not good, and how to specifically bring up when things cross a line or not. That is something that always, like, if a GM doesn't immediately like provide any sort of tools, or just kind of has a generic like, if something comes up, just talk to me, like that. Please bring up a please bring up a framework. Thank you.
I had a GM do that, but did a here's what to expect in this campaign, but also here's what to expect in this campaign. This is going to happen. And there's no leeway or discussion on like how to maybe...
You better hope your lines in Veil match with my campaign ideas.
Yep. And
Like-
that's the other thing where it's like, if a GM or a player doesn't like regularly check in after like emotional moments, or doesn't like do a debrief to go, hey, are we all good? Like, let's take a moment to like decompress.
Yeah.
Like if a DM doesn't do that aftercare, I get a little like about it.
Yeah. It's always good. It's always important that you like do a vibe check and make sure that your players are
Yep.
liking what's happening and feel good being at your table, because otherwise, why the hell are you doing it? Why the hell is anybody there if nobody's feeling good playing a game?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
mean,
And it's like just think, what were you gonna say?
No, God. I was just gonna say there's so many people that have done the legwork of creating formats for you to do the aftercare. Stars and Wishes is outstanding. It's an outstanding way to vibe check your players.
Or even Roses and Thorns.
Yep. Yeah, even just like here's the thing, like I love high emotional moments in a campaign as both a player and as a DM. Like in the campaign that I DM, my home game, we are in an incredibly high emotional arc where a lot of things are being revealed, and a lot of tensions both in the party and with the party with outside forces, and it is so much fun and it is so cathartic. And I am playing some absolutely awful people as a DM. Like I am playing some terrible individuals, and we've had some really high tension moments. But I always try to make sure, like, okay, that got really intense. How are we doing? Are we all good? Are we having fun? Is everything okay? And it's been, I am very happy to hear that it's been very positive so far, and I am happy for that. But I always still check in. I never want to make the assumption that things are good and things are okay, and that people are having a good time. It's like, I know that I am a good storyteller, but I never want to assume that I am a good storyteller. Like I know that I am good at what I do as a DM. I know that I have certain skills and aspects at it, but I never want to assume that everyone must be having a good time and I am doing everything flawlessly and there are things I cannot do better.
Absolutely. I think that that's one of the things that makes for just a good person at the table in general, whether it's the GM or the player, which is being able to be receptive to criticism, critiques, and not take it personally, and doing what's needed for the greater good of the table.
Oh yeah.
You know, I can't tell you how many horror stories I've heard just because one person's ego couldn't budge enough to compensate for the enjoyment of everybody else at the table. That's usually where problems stem from.
Yep. Yeah, I remember playing with someone once, and my character was like we were deep in role play. My character was basically like, I don't remember the exact situation, but I think it was like my character was like not wanting to do something or was wanting to attack someone because that person was threatening their husband. So, you know, kind of emotional investment there. And then the one of the other people at the table was like, can I roll like a persuasion check to make your character stop? And I was like, no. No, you can't.
I'm sorry.
Because, like, my character is gonna do the thing because it's her husband and she like loves him or something like that. So it's like, and she was like talking over me to the DM, like, can I make a persuasion check and to make them stop, or to make her stop or make her not do this? And I was like, and the DM was like, I know. So I don't remember exactly the details, but it was an odd experience.
I've had that happen. I hate that so much. Like, GMs, you have to understand that part of the job description is conflict resolution.
Yep.
Like, there's nothing worse than feeling abandoned by your GM. It's just like, I want to roll to stop your character from doing what your character would do. GM, can I do that? I'm looking at the GM like, help me! And they're just like,
Like, this is that character's decision. It's not yours. Please respect their agency. Like, I don't
And
understand.
it wasn't even doing something that would affect that person's character. It was entirely just like, look, am I aware this is a bad decision for my character? Yes. Yes, I am. She's still gonna do it because it's her husband? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, she is.
It almost feels like the other player is just trying to be like the defenseman, just like knocking the ball out of the air.
You want agency, not in my house.
I like how
goodness.
Earlier in the green room you mentioned that you don't actually technically have a that guy story, but I think you actually do.
I guess I do. I guess I must do. It wasn't like, to be weird, like, it's not that bad of a that guy story. It was a very, I have minor that guy stories that have like, that I guess if you piece them all together make one that guy, but I just have like they're small incidents to me.
It's it's several gremlins in a that guy trench coat.
Yeah, several gremlins in a that guy trench coat.
Oh, goddamn! Y'all have made me agree with Latia, which is let bad things happen at the table.
I love Latia.
I love Latia too. Kinda. No, I'm just kidding.
I gotta go. I will not stand for Latia slander in this household.
Oh wow, and I love that. No, it's all right. I can't. Oh, Latia is goals. No, seriously. But so speaking of Latia, another writer in your Call of Netherdeep book, I have to ask, what was it like writing in the world of Exandria? Because holy crap.
Latia, why does this keep happening?
What is like keep happening? What happened? Did I do something?
Every time I get in here, there's a speaking of Latia.
Oh, look, you know what? You're my permanent segue. I count on you to come on this show so I can use you as a segue.
You're also our only 3-time guest.
You coming to Gen Con? We're doing Morning Ritual live again and we don't have a guest. I'm kidding. No, but back to the question though.
Yes.
Quit being a distraction, Latia.
Latia's best distraction. But oh my goodness, it was wonderful and incredible and absolutely goddamn terrifying. Like, so I did a lot of work, like one of the sections of the book that I did a lot of work on and worked very closely with was like the Ankara Gazetteer that appears in the middle of the book. Mm-hmm. So I got to see Matt Mercer's notes for like campaign 1 when that city showed up for the first time. And bless his heart, there were a lot of question marks and blank spaces.
That is the most beautiful peek behind the GM curtain that I think anybody could have ever done. Is just like, even Matt Mercer has places where he doesn't know how to prep for.
Yep, yeah. I love him to bits, and I don't mean to like entirely expose him, but like I remember looking at his notes and it was like important NPCs and it was broken down by like different organizations, and he had the name of one organization and exactly one bullet point underneath it, which is just question mark, question mark, question mark.
That's awesome.
And I was like, Matthew, what am I supposed to do with this? Matthew, explain. I have confusion.
But what do the question marks mean? Is there some kind of code behind it?
And it was like, it was another thing because like I said, like Matt is the first DM I ever really watched. He's the reason why I got into D&D. And so like getting to look at his notes was like, whoa, and then whoa. no. And it's that very sort of humbling realization of, no, we really are just all creators floundering and trying to figure out what we're doing. And none of us really entirely know what we're doing, but we're doing our best.
It's exactly what it is.
Yep. And it was like, it was wild to me to think about like leaving my mark on this world. And then like further, because I did like I put a lot of Filipino culture into Ankarel, which led to Filipino culture appearing in other places in Marquette as Matt continued to world build for that continent. And knowing that like one of the biggest fantasy properties in the world has like explicit Filipino representation, which is like Southeast Asian representation is rare. Filipino representation within Southeast Asian representation is rarer. That still blows my mind, that to know that Filipino people are explicitly represented in a massive fantasy property is, and knowing that I had a hand in it is so wonderful.
Just wonderful and verifying and just validating, huh?
Oh God, I definitely like I don't cry often. I definitely cried while writing some sections of that book simply because I had the realization of there are people who are very explicitly like me now in one of the biggest fantasy properties. And like people don't represent Filipino culture that often in most things. Like even when people look at like Southeast Asia, we're often the forgotten ones. And to know that it is explicitly there and proudly, very obviously Filipino is so wonderful. It was also fun and less emotional to look at Matt and go, hey, you know how much research I had to do to make this work? Matthew, do you know how much I had to look into ancient Egyptian agricultural techniques and irrigation to make this work? And him going, yeah, no, I thought it was cool. And I just said I would figure it out later. And then later was you.
Later is you.
Later was you. I think that's this episode's shirt, which later is you.
I'll figure this out later.
Later.
And then like an asterisk
later
next to I, it's you'll figure this out later.
All right, so I've got 2 follow-up questions. One is professional and one is petty as fuck. Which one would you like to go with?
Let's go with the petty as fuck first.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so let's take a look at this. You have worked. You work with Wizards of the Coast, the top of the top. Mm-hmm. You have put in to creating something in one of the biggest fantasy worlds in the world. Mm-hmm. Now, I remember earlier we talked where there was a D&D group that just couldn't fit you in. Like, just kind of like, was there... I'd imagine once you get the job, like, okay, I'm going to be working on Critical Role. Is there any amount of like, fuck you guys, that you experience?
Oh, okay. So I have a very specific story about this that isn't necessarily the D&D group that couldn't fit me in, but oh man, if you go to a creative writing program in the middle of in a private, very white liberal arts school, you get some shit thrown your way. And so when I was finishing up my senior thesis for my creative writing major, we had a senior thesis class, and which was basically like once a month, everyone, a group of kids in the major would get together, and the supervisor would just like make sure like we're all on track, and also like get us together to talk about things that were going to happen like post-graduation, and trying to get us ready for the real world and all that stuff. Right. And so this is beginning 2020. This is after I had been hired on for MCDM's Player Guide Capital, after I had done initial design for Kingdoms and Warfare, and after I had done the Encounters of the Week for Explorer's Guide to Wildmount on D&D Beyond. So for context, I had already begun working as a professional creative writer on my own time. Right. What happened during this senior thesis meeting was the supervisor brought in the career advisor to go and talk with us and basically help us understand what we were going to do post-graduation, because we're a bunch of creative writing majors. Do you think most of us had any idea what we're doing professionally? No, the answer is no. So this this career advisor comes in. We're all on Zoom because it's the beginning of the pandemic, and she's going around and asking like all of us like, what are our plans for after graduation? And several people in a row had the same answer of, I don't know. I guess I'll maybe get an internship and then maybe do a master's degree. I don't know. And which, like, again, no fault to them. Our program did not exactly prepare us to actually get a job in the creative writing field. That did, however, lead to the career advisor, and I do not blame her for this, but she ended up getting a very patronizing tone throughout the different, like, pointing at all of us and asking. And so by the time she got to me, she was like, so Makenzie, what do you want to do after you graduate? And I was like, oh, okay. So, and then I just rattled off like, yes, I've already started working as a freelancer, doing work for like Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop role-playing games. And so I fully expect to be able to move to that full time and continue that once I graduate. With the thesis I'm working on, I'm hoping I can get that pitched to some like publishing companies and get that published through third party and get it edited, blah, 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 blah. She was like, oh, good. Yep. Yeah, I can't help you. And then she went to the next person. And this next person. And this next person is where it gets juicy. So she goes to the next person and asks them, hey, what do you want to do after graduation? And this person with their whole chest goes, so like, I don't really think I could ever see myself like freelancing and like limiting myself creatively like that. So like, I don't know. I don't really care what I do after I graduate, as long as I can still like write my novels in my free time and then eventually write novels full time.
They're working
with their whole chest after I just said how much I was like working as a freelancer.
Oof. The audacity.
And sometimes were they of mayonnaise complexion? Possibly.
I love you.
That's an insult to mayonnaise. I feel bad. I actually like mayonnaise.
Take that, novelist.
They're still working on the next greatest American novel in the Starbucks.
Oh God, no! They were working on the next Twilight. Like they were working on vampire romance fiction, but it was queer, so it was different.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I still look to see if they've published anything. That is my petty. That I will let myself be petty and see if the person who told me they wouldn't deign to lower themselves to limit their creativity as a freelancer, to see if they've published any of their books yet.
I just want to thank you for this answer, because I believe the best of us run on spite. I think a lot of people that made it in this space got told one too many times by some GM, it doesn't work that way. You can't make it that way. And I truly believe that most game designers just thought in their head when somebody told them no, just you wait.
The sticker says fueled by spite, so yes.
I feel this in my bones. American runs on Duncan's? No, American runs on spite.
We're gonna turn everything you love black and gay.
Take that, grognards.
And it's like okay, like I will give her this much. She wasn't necessarily a bad writer, but she was definitely a white queer writer and wrote from the perspective of a white queer writer and had a very limited perspective on the world on that. But because of that, thought she was the most diverse and groundbreaking writer in the fiction genre. And that was the other thing. We were both like genre fiction writers. We both loved fantasy, and we were in a program that kind of didn't like fantasy because it wasn't literary enough, or it wasn't like, deep enough. And so we should have been allies. We should have been working together on the same front to go, no, fiction and fantasy are worth writing. But no, she had to go and chuck me under the bus.
And another time we could have been friends, but no, you chose to make me your enemy this day.
Pretty much. And I'm like, And then like, and the other thing was at this time, like she was like, I wouldn't even dare limit my creativity by being a freelancer.
I wouldn't dare. Sorry myself.
And yeah, quite literally, that's kind of the tone she had. And I was looking at my other window, like in my document where I was writing an article for D&D Beyond that was just like at the moment, the outline was just called "Send in the Crabs," and I was like, ah, yes, my creativity so dimmed,
Hampered.
hampered, truly.
If I'm assuming that as somebody that was in a creative writing course, that they understand the concept of picking and choosing your words carefully. So if this had been any other course, I might give the benefit of the doubt of like, well, they might not have meant it. They didn't know what they were saying. But this is quite literally creative writing. She knew what she was doing. And that was bogus. That was trifling. And I'm so glad that you're on the other side of this, just doing an end zone dance in that person's face. And they don't even know it.
Like, it's just like one of the things where I was like, wait, why did you have to be so mean? Like, I know I am succeeding, and I am not trying to rub that in anyone's face, but I was just like, the career advisor asked what I was planning. And so I wanted to give a comprehensive list of what I was planning because I had a plan. That was in no way meant to denigrate or make anyone else look bad. If you happen to look bad because you do not have a plan, that is not my fault.
I mean, in my head, just hearing how you explained it, it kind of felt like you were coming to the defense of the class. Like this person started to get more and more snarky with our class. Like, we don't have a plan. Well, boom, what you gonna do now?
I have
like
a plan.
You made the person that's picking on your class go, oh wow, I can't help you. Like,
yep, pretty much.
If I'm your classmate, I'm like, that's what's up. I don't got a plan, but get him, Mac.
I was like, don't use that tone with me. I know what I'm doing. And I was like maybe a little more defensive than I should have been. I will admit that much. But she was very patronizing to me. And I just wanted to be like, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm good. You don't have to worry about me. Then that other person came up behind me like, I can't imagine like limiting my creativity that way. And I was like, but come on. If it wasn't like right after me, like I would have just wiped it as like, okay, it's just stereotypical, like very elitist creative writing major or whatever. That's fine. But because it came right after me and she used those words, I was like, this feels targeted, and come on, really? We're doing this?
This feels targeted, and I'm not here for it.
Yes, but anyways, yes. The answer to your question was, are there things that I look back on and I'm petty about? Yeah, that would be one of them.
You're justified though.
I mean, absolutely.
Justifiably petty.
The other question that I had, because I had the petty question and the more professional question, which is, now that you've kind of taken a peek behind the scenes of the creation of one of the most popular fantasy worlds, of our time, did you take anything away from that you now add to your worlds, or like, was there anything that like, oh, now that I see how the bread is made, I'm gonna add this to my recipe?
There wasn't anything specific I took from like the strategy or like the how that like the world building is done. I very much like looking at those notes and looking at the behind the scenes curtain. How I approach that is very much in a writer or designer way when it comes to my own my own home brewing and my own world building in my own time. I don't have the time to like set aside and plan, especially because I'm using a lot of that energy and world building energy to do like my actual work. So my home world building is very much it's cool, we'll put it in. But I definitely, what I did take away was like, it's I don't want to say it's like the inverse of never meet your idols. It's one of the things where it instead of like crushing how I like see people who I used to look up to, I still very much look up to them, but it's for different reasons now. I hold them in a different regard. I don't view them as like infallible creators who know everything, and I think that has been the big thing of throughout like the whole journey I have gone through, from like just like a fan and a fan creator all the way up to where I am now, has been this understanding that no one really knows what we're doing, and that is fine, because no one person has to know everything, and it is okay to have gaps, and it is okay to not know and make things up as you go. And I think that has been the thing that I have taken away from this, is knowing that even if I don't know, it is that ability to be confident and believe in what you are creating, even if you don't have it all written down on paper. It is the fluidity of storytelling, of knowing that certain things don't have to be set in stone immediately, and they can be changed, and nothing is canon is flexible and relative, and is something we often use as a cudgel to shut down discussions, or to make to block things out, or create fences or limits. And the reality is that canon is just as flexible as any kind of storytelling, and that everything can be changed for the better, and that nothing is certain and nothing is perfect, and that no one person is the master storyteller of anything, and life is better for them.
Heck yeah.
I think that brings us back a little bit to that point that you said earlier, is that a lot of the creator culture, or knowing that someone works in a certain position doing a certain thing, almost acts in sort of a dehumanizing way. But now that you see the person behind the work, it deepens your understanding that everybody's just a person, everybody's just people.
Yep. And that has been the thing that I have taken from that experience above all else, is just this appreciation for the human behind the curtain, and this deeper understanding of not needing to know everything, and just sometimes letting things be open spaces, and letting them be questions to be filled in later. Because oftentimes if you leave those open spaces, I found, like in the campaigns I run, or even if I'm like drafting up stories or adventures, you leave that space open to be filled in later, and you write something else, the answer will come up later, and then you can just put it back in, or replug it back in recursively, and the stories are richer for that.
And if you can't think of something now, you might end up with Makenzie who'll figure it out later.
Yeah, that too. Sometimes you might end up accidentally becoming a well-known stream, and then getting a book deal, and then having to write out your campaign notes, and then handing it off to some poor associate designer who's like, I got some free time, I can help. And then it's here, go write, and you're like, cool, and then you just let it happen.
I've got two more questions for you here, and one of them is like, as a game designer and writer in general, that means a lot of your life is under NDA.
God, yes.
Which means that, like, what I've personally experienced with NDAs is that there are things in your life that you are stressing about that you cannot communicate with anybody else.
Yes, go on, Noir, yes.
So my question is, how do you cope with that? And also, what's up, Chris? Welcome to the party.
Hey. How do I cope with that? So I think thankfully part of it is there are some people who are under the same NDA that I am, and some people who are under who are working on the same project that I am, and so I can go yell with them because we're both under the same NDA, and so our yelling is muffled together.
You can both scream into pillows together.
Yep, pretty much. That's honestly how I mostly deal with it. The other part of it is just sometimes I have gotten very good at speaking in vagaries, and speaking vaguely about things that are happening, or giving out of context snippets and then just letting it sit without any context and going, "You'll get it later," which is often fun. And sometimes it's like, look, I cannot tell you what I am stressed out about, but I am stressed. And thankfully, I have some lovely people in my life who are very understanding of the environment I work in, and they go, "You don't have to say anymore. What do you need from me?" And that has been very lovely.
Oh, that's dope. The first time I had that experience of just like being part of a project that I couldn't talk about, I was slamming my head against the wall, just like, "What's wrong with you? I can't say."
You good?
Oh God,
no,
yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah, it's very lovely having friends who understand that like a lot of my work is under NDA, or understand that like a lot of like sometimes my life is sort of public, being like some semi-public person on Twitter, or knowing like I have videos coming up and I don't have to explain what they are, but I just have to say I have a big release coming up that has my face attached to it, and I'm terrified. And they will go, "Okay, I will. You don't need to say anymore. Just let me know how I can help in this capacity," and then they'll just, be there for me. And
That's
that is
awesome.
very lovely, and I appreciate that so deeply.
Welcome, Raiders.
Hello.
The second question I had is, because you've worked so closely to Critical Role.
Mhm.
Critical Role is one of those things that's always being discussed in social media, for better or worse. And a lot of times it's for worse because people are the worst. Do you ever find yourself, now that you're kind of closer to it, that now that you've seen the people behind it, having to either disengage or wanting to step in?
Disengage is what I tend to do. I have done that very much. Part of it is because sometimes what the discourse that happens, I want to comment on it because I know what's down in the pipeline, and I know what's happening behind the scenes. But if those people who are like doing that work behind the scenes, they don't want to be public about it, which is 100% a valid thing, because being in the public eye, especially in regard to something like Critical Role, is incredibly stressful. And I can totally understand why some folks would prefer not to be super public about it and just have their name in the credits of the book or something like that. And that's like totally valid. But I don't want to force them into that spotlight and say, "No, I worked with this person." Because that's not my choice to make, and that is not my decision to place upon them and put them into a massive public spotlight that they do not want to be in. And so a lot of because I know sometimes what's in the pipeline or what's happening behind the scenes, or some of the work that's happening behind the scenes that isn't, publicly discussed, I just will often disengage and try, essentially just turn off Twitter and go, "That's fine. It's happening. I cannot comment. I'm not allowed to comment." But does it impact me or my work? Not particularly. Not that I don't try and keep aware of it. I very much make it a goal of mine to keep aware of things that are happening in the space and keep aware of the discussions that are happening, whether I agree with them or not. But oftentimes I do agree with them, but I just can't say that, because there are things that I'm like, I know you will be, this is answered in something that is coming up, but I cannot tell you that. So I just have to sit here. But your concern is valid, and I hear that. And I know I'm going to take those concerns and those critiques and move them forward into my own work and my own writing. And I am listening, even if I am not responding or being active. And it has become a very carefully measured sort of dance of learning how much to engage and how much to keep aware of, versus how much will burn me out and how much will just make me sad.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do it twofold because of your proximity to Critical Role and your proximity to Wizards. I mean, because there's a lot of shit that flies because on social media it costs nothing to voice your opinion, no matter how informed or ill-informed it is. And so I feel like a lot of times people don't consider that there are people that make up the companies that they're slinging shit at. So yeah, I just wanted to see like how you protect yourself and all of that.
It is something that I am definitely still learning and working on. Learning.
Learning and learning.
Oh no, my inability to words has been transferred. I've ruined you.
It's fine. It's fine. Bold of you to assume I had an ability to word prior to the stream.
I don't know what gave me that idea. Opens up all the books with your name.
It's all an act. It's all a ploy.
Haha, you fallen into my trap.
You've fallen into my trap. Gosh, no. But yeah, it's something I'm definitely still learning and working on, especially with like Netherdeep out, and the amount of attention that got, and with like the whole first year of me working at Wizards, learning how to manage that part of like my social media presence has been interesting and tricky, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I am very grateful for the position I am in, and I am grateful for the audience it affords me, and I'm grateful for being able to be in this position where I can make a lot of change and be representation and make a lot of very concrete efforts to better fantasy in the books in like tangible books that people can read and publish. And I am grateful for that, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But that element of it, of knowing people are making false assumptions or snap judgments when they don't have the full picture, and knowing for a fact that they don't have that full picture, it's difficult. But we learn, and we move forward, and we do listen. I do listen, and I want that to be very clear. It is not a entire ignoring. I don't dismiss everything out of hand of just, being, oh, they don't know what's going on. I do listen, and I do take into account those sorts of things. So words aren't falling on ignorant ears, but
I mean, I do wanna say that from the outside looking in, and forgive me, my headset got unplugged somehow. I do want to say from the outside looking in, Wizards bringing you on, and bringing on Justice and a few other people that I know are like solid folks, has been a very comforting sign. So like, for whatever critiques people have about Wizards, like I kind of feel like you and Justice and a lot of the other people that have been brought on are kind of like a sign that we're being listened to, that they're picking out good people, and that progress is on the way. So like, I thank you as somebody that's in the hobby of like giving me faith in like Wizards again. Like, that's not a small thing. So thank you.
Also, welcome in Raiders from the Lovely's channel. Hi, Sam.
hello.
Hope your stream was nice. Hope you had a good stream.
You missed it. We just yelled about Professor X again, but that's when that conversation started. Just so you know.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
His mention is BS. There it is in chat.
So, Mac, I've got another question that I always ask. I'm trying to always ask it. People hate it, but you just gonna have to deal. What would you like your next steps in your journey here to be? Like, I mean, what's the next land for you to conquer?
I'm personally, I love working at Wizards, and I love the work I get to do for D&D as much as I can. I'll talk about it, but I definitely want to keep working on that sort of thing, and I definitely would love to keep doing like panels and advocacy stuff. in addition to my work as an associate game designer at Wizards, I actually also work as the education and advocacy lead for the disability community of Wizards, which is our internal employee resource group that does a lot of work with disability and accessibility. And so I've been doing a lot of work with them. And that is doing work like that, doing work like I was at Game Dev Con or GDC, doing talks about accessibility. I would love to do more of those, talk more at different places and different cons or different companies, different events, doing that sort of advocacy work, as well as doing work like I did with the panel over at WonderCon, talking with those fabulous folks about like the experience of being a person of color or a marginalized individual in a space that is still very dominated by white cis male culture. I love doing like public speaking and panels, and I love being out there and showing to folks who are like me that there is someone who looks like them in this space. And that is something that I will keep trying to do. Dream goals would be, God, I want to get back to streaming D&D. I miss it so much. I want to DM more campaigns on stream again. I want to DM like a mini series on stream again. I miss that so much. And my theater kid inside me is dying because it has not been able to do that. I would love to do that. I would love to play like a live game of D&D at some point. Yeah, those are the kind of things where I'm just like, I would love to like be like do more streaming and get more out there and be more and let that performer side of me out to play a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, and just doing a lot more work to be out there loud and proud, and hopefully be the person people can look at and go, oh, she can do it, then I can do it too. Because like that's the whole point of representation, right? To make it so that people can see themselves.
Heck yeah.
Mac for Critical Role. No, I'm just kidding. I
gotta go. I gotta run.
I wouldn't put that curse on anybody. I mean, would I love to be on the show? Yeah. Would I want to deal with the social media afterwards? Absolutely not.
I got a small taste of it when I got with Netherdeep and like the influx of people who followed me after that. Would it be cool and awesome to play with those folks? Yes. It would be a wonderful. Would it also be absolutely terrifying? Yes. Yes, it would.
Absolutely, it would.
Now I just want to get the hashtag trending. Just a message.
Look,
Mac for Critical Role.
Oh God! I cannot stop you. I cannot stop you, Noir.
This is what you get for crotchy.
It's like a dog with a bone, or a gremlin with a dice to crunch.
In that case,
don't you do it.
You're gonna be like that. If you're gonna be like that,
cut the feed. No. I've never been so thoroughly disrespected on my own show.
Live crunch on air.
All right, here's the last question that we always ask everybody. It may not be the last question of this episode. It may be, who knows? But this is the last question that I try to make sure I ask everybody, which is, Mac, you are Empress of the TTRPG world. Anything that you want can happen with the snap of your finger. So if you want a company to go under, or if you want a company to become twice as big, whatever you want is the law. What do you do with the TTRPG community?
I honestly I'd probably find like a bunch of my friends who want to like publish their own supplements and stuff, and just go and try and like and give them whatever funding they need to like get that off the ground. Like just fully one woman Kickstarter a bunch of projects, I think is what I would do.
That's awesome.
I just would like there isn't anything like I'd want to destroy, but there are so many people out there who have such cool ideas whether it is like, you know, like the Islands of Sinuna, where it is like a deep exploration into representation and a specific culture, or it's someone's absolutely wacky ideas where they're like, nah, I just want to have fun. I would just love to be able to give people the funding to start building that and giving them the ground up and whatever guidance they need to navigate the OGL, like whatever guidance they need to get like things published. I would love to support them in that and give them all the funding they need to get all the art and make sure that they're able to pay their freelancers or their contract workers good amounts and like solid rates and all that stuff. That would be immediately what I would want to do, because I think like having more content in the space and more products that are like super cool and driven through this creative passion by like marginalized creators is super cool, and I would love to support them in any way, shape, or form.
Finally, my Muppets 5e setting will be funded. Okay. No, but I like that. Like, I feel like that is one of the more common answers to that question, and I love that we can all sense that there is a groundswell of creativity that just needs a little bit of extra help to like really flourish. And I feel like a lot of the bigger companies in the space are starting to feel that too. So yeah, I'm very excited about the future of TTRPG.
Yeah, there are so many things where it's like I know that when I started out, I had a lot of help from people who were like helping me give support and were like editing things for free or like offering to do covers just because they were like, oh, it's a fun little side project that seems really cool and I like your project. And it was like those little bits of support, because I didn't have the money or the ground funds to pay for like a full cover or do like layout and stuff like that. And people who were willing to work with me and help support me and push me up helped me get to where I am now. And when I was a freelancer, it was my policy, if it was like your first DM skill supplement or your first anything, I was like, I will edit it for free, you don't have to pay me. And it was that idea of paying it forward. And I can't do that as much now because I work for Wizards and I have way more complicated duties and responsibilities. But it is something that if I ever get the chance to do, and if I could, I would pay it forward 1,000 times over, because I know there are people who are like me when I started out, who have just a bunch of ideas and no guidance or ground to start pushing them. And I'd love to be able to just give them the space to start and see where they go.
Yeah. Heck yeah. So my last two questions, I don't know about you, Anita, I've got two more in the tank, are can you pick a specific moment where you knew this is what you wanted to do? Like, is there anything that comes to mind where you're just like, yeah, that's what I knew, that I had found what I love to do, or what I want to do?
There's definitely a moment that I can pinpoint, and it was right before it was right when I had finished my junior year of university, and I was about to start I was about to go into the summer before my senior year, and that was originally the plan. And like I say that like the plan with like a capital P, as in like the plan that every kid of immigrants kind of has going into university, where it's like you get your internship after your junior year going into your senior year so you can get a job right out of senior year. And I remember I didn't get an internship as much as I had done, like put stuff on DM's Guild and tried to buff up my portfolio. I hadn't gotten an internship, but what I had gotten was a weird amount of traction online and a lot of people who were supporting me and like doing a bunch of stream stuff. And I remember sitting like in my unair conditioned Southern California college apartment, looking at like my computer and going, this feels right. I have no clue where the hell it's going to go, but it feels right. And I feel like something is about to like shift. And there was like, I felt like I was on the ledge of something and I had no clue where it was going to go. I just needed to jump. And so I did. And I just said, I don't have an internship this summer, so I am going to put everything I have into doing the streaming TTRPG community leadership creating thing, and we'll see what happens because I have nothing else to do this summer and it feels right. And thankfully I wasn't wrong.
Heck yeah. No, I love that. And the second question is just if you could levy any advice to yourself when you first started, like if you had a time machine and you had 5 minutes to give yourself the best piece of advice you could, what would you tell yourself?
Oh goodness, I don't know if myself would believe half the things I'd say.
That's the problem with this question.
If I told myself, like, if I literally went back 3 years and went, hey, so in 3 years you're gonna be working for Wizards of the Coast, writing for Dungeons and Dragons, and you will be writing for Critical Role, and you will be name dropped on Critical Role. I think my past self would be, what?
Yeah.
I literally started DMing like a week ago. What? But I think if to give past me some advice that she might actually listen to, would be just put yourself out there, and more specifically, the thing that I wish I had learned sooner was this lesson of make it a goal to collect rejection, in the sense that you can only get rejected from something if you actually put in the effort to apply for it, right? So if you make it your goal to collect a certain number of rejections and you put that much effort into applying for things and putting yourself out there, you will be surprised by how many acceptances you actually get along the way as well.
Wow.
And that is what got me, like, at the very beginning, was what started, that's why I started like applying for freelancing things and putting myself out there, even though I didn't have like too much, because at that point I was like, I want to at least say I tried. And if I get a rejection, that's fine, but at least I can say I put myself out there. And that's how I got my first job working with MCDM, was I applied for that and I did not think I was going to get it. I thought that was just going to go in my pile of collected rejections. And I was surprised. And ever since then, that has been kind of my motive, has been, if I get a no, it means at least I put myself out there and I tried.
You got an
I'm
answer,
not going to, I got an answer, and I'm not going to like wait and expect someone to come to me, because if I just wait and hope, that's not getting anyone anywhere.
Yeah.
So being able to put myself out there and get over that fear of rejection would be the best advice I could give baby Makenzie.
Yo, that answer was so much better than the question.
Great answer. And I don't think that there's a better place that we could go from there.
Yeah, bars.
Hell yeah.
I will say I did not come up with that. That is a lesson that has been passed down in like the creative writing community through various channels, but it is something that I have taken to heart deeply.
Oh man, yeah, that's going in the old noggin and it's not coming out. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a fantastic experience and interview, and it's also become customary for me to bully guests, because at some point I will try and bully you to get back here.
You don't have to. You could ask nicely, and I'll go, yeah, I'll be back. It'll be great.
Okay.
Don't bully. Be nice.
Okay, we don't bully, but we definitely want you to come back. and I super need to play a game with you now. Like,
yes, yes.
I want that to happen so bad. But thank you so much for joining us. I have been one of your hosts, Noir, he/they. I'm doing a bunch of stuff today. Follow my Twitter, and then we've got the one that knows what they're doing here, Anita.
Hi, I'm the channel runner for here, so you can find me here. On Fridays, you can find us over on Gen Con's channel. Noir does table takes there, and then afterwards we've got an Everyday Heroes 5-part game. It's being run by the wonderful Super Dylan. And other than that, check out my Twitter. You'll find out where I am. we're sort of on the lookout for sponsors for the channel. So if you know a company that is looking for someone to advertise with, hit us up on the socials. All the details are pinned in our bio. That's been our episode. Makenzie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, and we'll cut out of here.
Hi, I'm Makenzie the Armas. You can find me over on Twitter at Makenzie Lane DA. That's MakenziELaneda. That is the handle. Also, you can find me on pretty much any other social media. I sometimes post on TikTok. I sometimes post on Instagram. TikTok is mostly just me like messing around with the costumes and sometimes posting D&D stuff. But if you want to follow like my professional stuff and see what projects are coming out and what other cool things I've got going on, Twitter is the place to be, is where I will be shouting it out. Thank you so much again for having me. This has been absolutely wonderful, and y'all are amazing.
Thank you for saying yes. I look forward to just talking with you in the future. That's been our episode. Well, we should spread the love, right?
Spread some love. Yeah. Total Party Kiss is online. TTRPG is online.
Total Party Kiss. Well, you know what? Look, Gnome just got a job at Jackbox, and I see that he's doing Jackbox party games. I really have not been able to talk all episode. So why don't we go show some love to Gnome?
Let's go say
and congratulate him on the new job.
Go say hello to Gnome. Thank you all so much for stopping by, and Makenzie, again, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. But until next time, everybody, the ritual has concluded. Bye!
Bye, y'all!
Bye!